welcome back to Team Spirit. I'm Lauren.
I'm Emily.
I'm Carrie.
And today we are talking divination. So, Carrie, this was kind of your idea for this topic today. So, do you want to take it off?
Yeah, absolutely. So divination it's such a beautiful thing. I really actually just recently started using cards as divination. It hasn't really been a big part of my practice for very long, like literally within the last 4 months, I would say, but it has completely elevated my entire practice. And I think that there's something to say about, especially like doing what Emily and I do, being on TikTok live doing readings. I think people like to see, like, there's just something mystical about it that people really, really like. But there's all different kinds of divination. The two that I am most comfortable with right now are tarot. And then I also use a pendulum during my Reiki appointments. So during my Reiki appointments, I do hands-on Reiki in addition to distance. So most of my business is virtual, but there is a very small piece of it that is in person. So that is when I will use a pendulum, and I use a specific pendulum for my Reiki to where it'll help me know that the chakras are aligned and balanced. So when a client comes in and I lay them on the table and we start the grounding exercises and we start the Reiki process, I'll usually hit them with the pendulum, not actually hit them, but you know what I mean. With the pendulum, yeah, exactly. A little smack with the pendulum before and then after. So I check to see what chakras might be a little bit imbalanced or what's blocked. And then at the end, I use it again to make sure everything is flowing and balanced. And I've actually learned a lot through using that pendulum. So I actually believe it was Emily. I explained this to you. I was doing Reiki on you. Yep. And a lot of times with the chakras that are struggling a little bit more, I think spirit kind of like trained me to do this. The pendulum, so after the session, it will swing, yes, to confirm that everything is balanced and flowing, but it won't be as nearly as strong as a swing as the chakras that were not previously imbalanced. So you can kind of see, and then if I go back to that chakra it's a yes, but it's a weak yes, I can go back and use more Reiki on that center or that part of the body, whatever it is I'm looking at, and then it'll swing bigger each time. So it's a really incredible tool and something that I use all the time. I also feel like it's really helpful with like business too. You know, it's a really easy way that doesn't require a whole lot of skill. Like tarot requires a whole lot of skill. I feel like you could literally learn tarot for the rest of your life and still be figuring ways to read those cards. Where a pendulum is more black and white. So there's little tricks that you can do with the pendulum that our mentor had actually taught to us to help with business. So if you're trying to get an idea on a price, like how much you want to charge for a service, or, you know, how many people you want to have in a certain class that you're going to be teaching, or really anything you can use that pendulum for to give you guidelines. And you can use your tarot cards. Like a card could represent, $100. The next card could represent $200. And then you can just do that. And the pendulum will swing with what spirit thinks or what they know to be the best value for whatever it is that you're trying to sell. So there's so many ways to use divination. You can use it in everyday life. You can use it in your practice. It's just limitless. And I found it to be a really incredible tool so far. But as far as tarot, like I said, I use tarot for my readings, but it's something that I would still consider myself a baby in. And I feel like it's something I'm going to learn for a really long time. But I usually do readings on myself once a week. I try not to do it every single day, because if I do, I find that my guides get really irritated and they'll throw me the swords and the death card and everything in between. So I've gotten better about that. They kind of like whipped me in the shape as far as doing too many readings on myself. But yeah, divination is just it's so cool.
What do you find your clients' reactions to you using the pendulums? Do they seem to like it? Do you have a lot of questions?
So I typically will I'll ask if they're okay with that I use the pendulum. I always ask for permission, just like you would if you're going to pull cards on somebody. So I've only had a couple of times where somebody doesn't want me to use any divination, and I totally respect that. But 9 times out of 10, they're all for it. And they're really always fascinated by, I think they're looking at my hand and they're expecting my hand to move. And when it doesn't, it just kind of blows them away. And they're like,
Yeah.
and I always reset it by putting my hand on the crystal to stop it from swinging and then start again. And it always blows people's minds. So yeah, they love it. They absolutely love it. It adds a little flavor to the Reiki sessions. Exactly.
Love it. You have a little dance. Here's your flavor.
Yeah. Little dance. How about you, Lauren, our witchy friend?
I love my tarot cards. I have a couple of them. And I think, yeah, kind of like you said with the cards, it's so you really can just use them and learn forever. And everybody interprets them so differently. And like, I was thinking about when our last recording and when you guys asked me what my favorite card is, and I said the moon, you guys were probably like, what? But like, because I know that is not one that people like, but the reason I like it is because like my true Libra self, I am always balancing, and that one is a trust your gut card to me. Like I like the illuminating trust your gut, and so that one's like stop all this silliness and you know what to do. And so I like when that card comes up. And I also will scry. Like I have a spell book that I use like tarot cards with actually, and one of the spells in it is like I have a black bowl that I put some water in, and I kind of just sit in my like with the reflection in my thoughts, and I have had some really cool moments from that. And I don't know, I get why a lot of people are, I don't know, I think a lot of people are afraid of it. I think a lot of people are afraid to get an answer they don't want, or they're afraid of getting the answer they knew that they should get or should do, or the choices they have to do. And I get that. There's a lot of times, I mean, Carrie, that one time we were in that store and you were like, hey, do you want me to use the, and I was like, no, not on this one. Because like I get it, there's just some things and those questions I don't ask my tarot cards because I already know the answer. But I'm the worst person where I like when it comes to movies and shows, I'm already Googling how things end because I can't wait. So I love to know answers for things.
Right.
But Carrie, just like you, I have really pissed off my like spirit and tarot way more times than I can count, and they always make it super clear when we're done here.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because my parents, they have gotten more interested in certain things like divination recently, and it brought back a memory of you saying that some people are really scared of that kind of stuff. And it was my mom and dad, and we were together in the kitchen, and I had my pendulum out, and I was doing a couple cards for them using the pendulum. And my mom's like, "Hey, ask if Dad's health is going to be okay, and in the future." And my dad's like, "I don't want to know that. Don't do that."
Yeah, like some of those things are scary. There was before Mark and I were like officially dating. I don't know. He was annoying me, and I had my friend like we would always do the tarot cards. I talked about him in the first one, and like he came by because they were both in the frat house, and he came by and he was like, "What are you guys doing?" And we were like, "Oh, we're pulling cards," and he was like, "I don't like that," and I was like, "Okay, then leave." And he was like, "Well, like what? Do mine." And so we're doing his spread, and it read him like a book. Mama, it read him, and it pulled the lovers, and he literally like walked out the door. And I was not because like he didn't like that card, but he was like, oh my God, this is how I'm acting, and I'm an idiot. And I mean, we just got the biggest kick out of it. But he's done spells with me or had me do spells for him, and we read our tarot together on moon phases and things like that. So like he's totally come around. And I think in a lot of ways, when we are having a hard time making decisions, or we know what decision we need to make, these type of tools are really helpful to get us to actually do them. I mean, I can't count how many times I've been like, I know what I need to do, but how am I going to do it? Or when should I do it? And I'll take to my cards or any of my other tools that I'll use. And I will be like, okay, like I'm ready, or I need to wait. And it's nice kind of having, it feels like an unbiased reaction.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
It is.
I love it.
I'm
what about you, Emily? What, Carrie?
I know what you're thinking of, Em.
That's what I was. I said, what about you, Emily? I was like, I already know the answer.
Hand motions, like I have what's it called, a planchette?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I have always been intrigued and at one point terrified of the Ouija board. It's not constantly like becoming a psychic medium that I'm like, dude, this is like for me, not against me, you know? And I've been breaking conditioning around evil spirits and demons anyway. I love the Ouija board. I've always loved the Ouija board. Even before I ever had a Ouija board, I was making my own on pieces of paper and using a cup in my walk-in closet with my friends. I've always been drawn to that. And I do love tarot. I don't feel confident yet to use it in my practices for other people, but you better believe I'm pulling cards on myself, my close friends, or like, you know, people in my life that I'm close with constantly. And then the pendulum, I haven't really found a use for that yet. I mean, I'll ask it things from time to time, but I tend to gravitate more towards the tarot cards than the pendulum. I think I forget that I have it, but I think once I learn Reiki, I will be using it in the way that Carrie uses it. I have had different spiritual friends pull out their pendulum and go over my chakras. So like I was always fascinated by that. I just don't practice Reiki yet. So I haven't used it in that manner, but I'm all about the Ouija boards and the spirit boards. They also have boards for the pendulum that say like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I have one of those.
Which I also have. So how I really got into tarot, it was probably about 2 years ago, like after my eating disorder, when all of my spiritual journey took off. And I started watching girls on YouTube, like known psychics, give like collective readings. Like they'd be like, okay, pick from 3 piles. Okay, pile A reading first. If you want to skip to 20 minutes in for pile B, you know. So I was doing that. And I like how some of them won't just do like the cards and the tarot cards and the oracle cards, but like some of them will pull out stickers that have words on them or letters or, you know, meaning and like even charms, like they'll pull out. And I've always found myself even resonating with those means of divination, if you will.
Yeah.
I even love that idea of recording yourself giving collective readings, because I feel like they're reading my soul.
Yeah.
Right.
And
every time.
I love it. So I think it's even cool that they implement that. They'll implement crystals and it'll be like, holy shit, amethyst has come up a million times and that came out in that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so true. Anything can be divination.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I could pick up my kid's Elmo card deck and literally make that into divination.
Yeah.
People flip coins all the time. Like,
yeah, everything about this work, everything is intention.
Yep.
Everything.
Yep.
So if you set that intention, and one of the big goal for me and one of the forms of divination that I have found myself to be completely enthralled with is bones.
Yes.
I have no idea, you know, I wouldn't know the first thing about a bone reading or, you know, how to be a reader for it, but I've gotten readings done myself. And I feel like what I love about that is that it's so personal. If you go and you find your charms, or if you're bridging or you're hiking and you find cool things that you can use anything. And it seems endless. It just seems limitless, really.
Well, even the Bible can be used as a divination tool. If spirit wants you to see a certain passage or something that speaks to your soul and what you're going through at the moment, you're going to flip to that page and see that. Exactly.
The things you're scrolling that come up and you see and you're just like you feel something from that was meant for you.
Right. Yeah. Yep. A song, you know, like spirit, play me a song that resonates to what I'm going through right now as a sign or something.
Divination.
Yep.
Yeah. The worst is when they serve you those messages and you're out in public and suddenly you're crying in front of everybody. And you're like,
yep. Random people, you know, you'll have people come up to you and be like, "Oh, why? But I'm drawn to you, and I had to tell you, blah blah blah." I mean, it's endless.
Yeah. Ooh, Carrie, remember I almost got kidnapped that way?
Yes. You might have to go into detail about that one.
They were bad. They were bad ones. I don't think they were drawn to me. I think that was a lesson for me, because I went back, I watched that video and I was like, I was in danger. Yeah, no, this white van pulls up to me at work and this lady like is hanging over and her son is like, no, her son was at home. And she was like, excuse me, excuse me. I thought she was going to ask me for directions. And she's like, I just was really drawn to you. You just have so much like energy to you. I do readings. My son lives just down the street. Like, will you come with me? And first of all, I'm like, I have at least 15 crystals in my bag at all times. Of course, I'm got energy and I'm also alive, but no. And so I left. I told Carrie what happened, and then I watched the video, and I made so many mistakes when like talking to this person. I went up to the van, like I should have stayed back. And I was like, learned a lesson here. Like,
Yeah.
how to react to some of those people. But like I've had, man, when I worked at Hallmark in high school, and I cannot tell you how many people would come up and just be like, either they were just telling me something personal to themselves that I guess they don't have someone to share, or they would just tell me, I just really feel like I need to pray for you, or like just say something for you. And like, I think about it, and like, I was going through hard times, and I guess like they were picking up on it. And for a long time, I was like, oh, these people are so weird. But I think they sense this girl is really sad and needs to figure her shit out.
Right. Yeah. It was spirit sending you those people.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Right. Yeah. And it is funny. And you definitely have to pick in the good and bad, because there are people who have ill intentions and they cannot.
Like TikTok.
Yep.
There's
Yes.
thousands of them.
And you know what? You have to use your own intuition and lean into that. Is this right? Is this not? And in a lot of cases, it's fine to listen. You don't get hurt from it, but listen to what they're saying to be like, maybe this isn't for me, and this is my warning sign instead.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think something that would be important to talk about in this episode too is, the best ways to remove that fear around divination.
Agreed. Yeah.
I've seen myself a lot of, in my rolling spirals that I'll do, and I'll come across different TikToks, or I'll come across different posts on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is talking about divination. And I always go to the comments, because that's where, that's where it's at.
Yep.
That's where it's at. And I will see like a lot of people talking about, how fearful they are of these tools. And it's always goes back to not knowing who's on the other side.
Yep.
That always seems to be the argument of, you don't know who's on the other side. So I would feel like, our audience would want to know about that as well. And even if you're practicing, it's still something that I think about, and it's still something that even I have to kind of remind myself. And I wouldn't be here without the help of my mentor and all of those things as well. But what's your guys' experiences with that, and how you were able to like decondition your beliefs, and what's your thoughts on not knowing who's on the other side of those tools?
Like when I think about the Ouija board, for instance, and like the difference between how I felt about it when I was younger and how I feel about it now, I definitely had that fear of, and hearing in my head of people saying you don't know who's on the other side. But I think it's all about, like you said, Carrie, earlier, it's about intention.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you are intending for it to be scary and creepy, and that's what you're going to attract. And I also think if you're playing it and you're scared, you might get some trickster spirits that are playing on your fear. But like the last couple times that we've all done it together, there was no doubt in my mind that my intention was pure.
Right.
I didn't even think twice about something quote unquote negative coming through, because that was not what I was putting out at all.
Right.
I also think that, and I'm by no means an expert, but I think it goes a lot deeper than that. I think it's deconditioning that there's demons that are really out to get us in the first place.
Yeah.
And I also think that your reality is whatever your perspective is. So that's what you're going to attract. So it's a plethora of things that go into it. But I think the one takeaway from it is your intention and how you feel about it. Carrie and I have had crazy, weird things happen, but there was that little bit of doubt. So So
yeah,
we
were so amateur in all of this to begin
Yes.
with. And I do think that there should be a little bit of, not necessarily a warning, but a greater understanding of what you're getting.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, you know, to go into any form of divination, like Emily just said, I feel like you have to come from, your intention is really important, but also you have to be grounded.
Yes.
You know, you have to really be grounded. And also too, I feel a lot better about using my tools of divination because I have cultivated a relationship with my guides. So
Yes.
there's trust there, and I understand them and they understand me. And of course, I'm always still learning, but I know who's on the other side.
Yes.
And that's not to say, you know, that trickster spirits or whatever you want to call them aren't out there, but it's not necessarily something that I'm looking for. And I do think that you have to decondition around these things before you start using them.
Yes.
I think that is absolutely critical because there's such fear in our society, just with movies alone. The Exorcist being a really part of that. And you know, if you're going off of that as like your knowledge on this type of stuff, it's going to be really scary, and you might have an intention, but it's all about your feeling too. Yeah. So if you're feeling uncomfortable. So for me, I think everybody should use these tools, but I think you need to have knowledge around them, and you need to have an understanding around them. And you also need to practice your meditations and connecting with your guides so you feel more comfortable and you feel safe using divination tools.
And so you can kind of get a feel for what they feel like, oh, it's my guides. When my grandpa or my aunt are around, which is pretty much all the time, I know what they feel like. So it's like, oh, it's them three.
Okay, so I always, no matter what I'm doing, I usually keep some sort of crystal or a couple different crystals on me, and for protection. Anything I do, I've always got my little piece of tourmaline. And then I also just cleanse my space, my tools, all of it. And I set my intentions before I do anything, the same as you guys. And I agree, there's definitely points when you're like playing around with stuff that you shouldn't be. I was such an asshole when I was younger, and like one time we were playing with a Ouija board, and I moved it and I scared the living shit out of my friend, and like shouldn't have been doing that. And I swear that it also brought some negativity into my house. And my mom was like, I told you not to be messing around with that in such a way. That is not what it is used for pranks. Like that's not it. And let me tell you, it was really good. And to this day, I mean, now she'd never find this, but like if she did, she'd now know that it was me. But like I never confessed that like I did it. But I think even when you do things and it causes a negative reaction, you can still set those boundaries with whatever you're attracting to be like, I don't want this. And good or bad. I mean, I think in some cases, I know one of my friends, she could read people's minds as a child. And it was she didn't want it. And she had told her mom, there were crazy instances. And even growing up, like when we were in college together, like it would happen a couple of times. So when she was younger, she told her mom, I don't want this. I don't want to be able to do this. And her mom helps her set these boundaries to make it stop. And I think it's fine if it's even if you have some like a specialty in it and you're not comfortable, to say this isn't what I want, and to set those boundaries with yourself, the universe, your spirit guides, everything, to be like, I'm not ready for this. I don't want this. And that's fine. And that's good or bad. And especially negative, you can put it out there. I don't want you here. And that's enough. Like that is enough to say. And if we have a hard time saying that to people in our, like physical people in our lives, it should be practice on any negativity that is maybe coming forward to you that you maybe need to do to human people. Practice that way of setting your boundaries. This isn't what I want. I'm not ready.
Right.
That's my thoughts on need.
Yeah. And that's a really good point too on energetic hygiene. I mean, it's something that I don't necessarily go overboard. I don't go overboard, but I also think it's really important. And I also think that there's times where you need it more than maybe other times as well.
Yes.
And I really think that a lot of it, like the negativity, it's all mirrors and shadows of where we are in our mental. So like when I am feeling, because we're human and we have to honor that. We have human emotion. Oh my God. We have to honor that. And if we're in our feelings or we're like in a rougher state, then that's when it's maybe not even the best time to use those tools.
Yep.
Or maybe you do have to do a little bit more protection and really set those intentions and take pen to paper or just go the extra mile before you pick up your tarot cards or pick up your pendulum or whatever it may be. Because I know for a while, and I do joke and say that a lot of times it's my guides, but it probably is more of my energy. When I'm asking a question about, let's just say, should I go live today? And I don't feel like going live and I don't feel like reading, 10 plus people and I am having a more human day. Well, that energy is going to go into the cards and what comes out. We have to remember that we are also divine. Like we have divine spark within us. And I feel like that's where, not saying that there's no tricksters or anything like that, but I really think that a lot of times it's us.
Yes.
I agree. Yeah, it's almost like, and I'm so aware when I do this, and I think I am sure so many other people do it too. It's almost like when I wake up, or even when I'm looking at my calendar for like a upcoming day, and I'm like, God, Thursday is not going to be my day. It almost always isn't my day because I've already put it out there, and it's because I'm aware, but I'm also I'm putting out that energy. And I tell people all the time, like if someone's in between a decision and I'm like, flip a coin and whichever side you are going to be more upset about, that's not the answer.
Right.
Like you'll have your answer as that flip, like before you even look at it, you'll know what it is. And I think it's,
yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lauren.
no, it's the energy we put out to it.
Yeah.
Totally. It helps make our decisions and if we're not going to listen to it, I also think we shouldn't be doing it. And it's fine to not be ready to listen. I have set things, especially so when it comes to witchcraft, a lot of things that you'll see is like, oh, you have to do like this on the full moon or on a Thursday or on this whatever. And like it doesn't have to work like that. There's plenty
of Thursday or what, like they do, but I don't think it matters. I don't think time exists.
Right.
There's definitely days I think where when I plan it out and I'm like, I'm ready and it gets me excited for those days. And I do think when it comes in terms to like planetary days and alignments and things like that, sure, comes into play. But if that day comes around and you're like, like this isn't going my way, I don't think I'm gonna put my best energy out there, then don't. You can wait. The full moon is in three cycles. And everybody always talks about the one day that it's the 100% or 0% for new moon. And it's like, well, no, it transitions within 3 days. So just because you miss that 100% day doesn't mean you can't do it the day before, the day after, or you know what? When it feels right to you, when your energy is ready, then you do what you have to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're gonna get messages and you're gonna be like, oh, sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah. Right. Or you're not gonna give yourself like a fair reading. Like specifically if you're using tarot card and you're just expecting all the sun and the high priestess and the 9 of pentacles to come out and you don't get those things, you need to be really real with yourself. And like it's almost like doing your own form of shadow work through divination of okay, so should I take this opportunity or this job and these horrible cards come out, but it's not what you want because you want this job? Well, you have to really think, why would these cards be coming out? What part of me is coming out in these cards? Do I feel like I'm not good enough? Do I feel like I'm not qualified enough? Am I having imposter syndrome? It all plays a role, all of it. And that's the beauty of divination in and of itself.
You might even just be so focused on what answer you want that you're missing a message that was far more important to. And it's funny, I saw this in one of your lives recently. Someone was so dead set on an answer they wanted and they were commenting it. And I was like, you're missing this beautiful message for you because you want something else. that
Yes.
maybe you're not ready to hear. Maybe it's just not in the cards for you, but you just got something that, and you don't even hear it. And it makes me so sad in those
Yeah.
instances
Yeah.
that you missed out on something. And that's why every time when I do reading, like tarot spell, anything, I always write it down. I journal after, because in a lot of times I might come back to it and I'll be like, wow, missed that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or makes sense now. And I
Uh-huh.
think it's a really good place to kind of like end the episode of divination too, because we all get readings, and especially if you're on the TikTok platform, there's so many opportunities to get readings. And I think that it's also equally important to understand that this isn't a perfectly mapped out science.
Right.
Nothing is 100%.
You have free
because
will.
You have free will.
Mhm.
You don't know the reader where they're at that day. You don't know what the energy is like around that situation right now. You don't know. There's so much that you don't know. So discernment is so important, whether or not you're reading yourself or you're getting a reading from somebody else. It's not black and white. And that is why it's so important, and why we're all gifted intuition. There's not one person on this planet that doesn't have it.
Right.
And that is what you need to rely on above else. These things, they're just tools. They're just ways to help to make the message a little bit more clear, or to have a little bit greater of an understanding, but they're just tools. The greatest vessel is you.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's you.
That was so perfectly put, Carrie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've done enough readings to know that I have to say that. And
Right.
I've seen friends, and I've had this fear myself, and I know Emily has too, of leading somebody the wrong way.
Yep.
It's a great responsibility when you're using divination for somebody else.
Yep.
And it's like, you kind of have to give a little bit of like a disclaimer of,
Absolutely.
you take what resonates and you leave what doesn't. And if it doesn't resonate, you need to ask yourself, does it really not resonate? Or is there something of a part of me or a piece of me that I'm in denial about? Then you have to figure that out. You as the sitter, or whoever is getting the reading, that's your magic that you have to bring into this, because without you, it can't happen.
Right.
And a reader's not always going to be 100%. You can go to the best readers in the nation or in the world, and you're still going to have to use your own discernment.
Yep.
So I've seen people, that have left reading for a while because they felt responsible for the way that other people have felt after a read. And it's like, that's not really fair either. Like, we all have to play our part.
Yeah, Carrie just laid down the law. Hear that,
Period.
everybody? Lawyered.
Period. Oh, that's divination.
Yeah, I think, that was great. That was perfect. Wait, who did we say was doing that?
You.
Me? Okay, thanks for tuning in, guys. We hope you have a better understanding of divination, how to use it. If you have any questions, tell us how you use your tools. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Team Spirit Podcast. And you can find Carrie and Emily live on TikTok at Enchanted Mystic by MK and Clarity by Cam, CAM. So thanks for listening, and make sure you're following us on Spotify. Leave us a rating, all the good stuff. And until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Cool.